Underdog producer here. I'm at Disney Springs, as you can see. Planet Hollywood is over there. AMC Theaters is over there. Cirque du Soleil is over there. World of Disney over there. All right. So I want to take the time right now after my live stream. This much left to do the full review on 28 years later. All right. So I want to start off by saying there's going to be some spoilers, a lot of spoilers. So watch it first. Don't watch it first, but there's going to be spoilers. All right. So I want to start with the soundtrack or the score. They had it very, very war esque. Right, really sets the tone, gets you in the mood. It jars the system early on, so your fear sensors are primed and ready to go. So I like that. The technique of the tension that they used was unbelievable. You're just at the edge of your seat when these rage. You don't even want to call them zombies, but we'll get to that later. Why you don't want to call them zombies, but these rage creatures, they create unbelievable tension, which movies need. If you don't have any tension, if your movie lacks tension, then your movie lacks attention. All right, remember that. I think one of the first things that stood out was that camera technique that they had, where the arrow goes into the rage person. I'll just say zombie in the rage zombie's head, and then it does like a quick turn to the side. I thought that was a really cool, effective technique used, and I'm like pretty sure that that was done with the iPhone because you could see the social media shots where the cameras were lined up in a half circle. So I thought that technique was used really, really effective. It was effective. They used it a couple times. Some people may say that they overused it, but I thought that they used it just enough, and I think they should continue to use it because I thought it was a pretty badass shot. I see a lot of YouTubers didn't like these shots either, where it goes into all red and you see these rage zombies with their eyes lit up and just makes like a real animalistic and creature-like feeling. Um, that was reminiscent to me of House of a Thousand Corpses, where Rob Zombie would just put in these random shots that just help build the mood. I thought that that was great. Like even if that particular shot didn't lead anywhere, it was just to help build the mood and ambiance. And that's like a similar technique for just music wise to build the ambiance. But just why not do it visually? I thought that was great. And also, while we're on that subject, a lot of people didn't like the medieval time shots and all the war shots. I thought that was great. I thought it set the tone for look. He's showing the war shots, which shows that it puts this for me personally. It automatically put me in the tone of this is where we were. We were at war with these creatures, and this is where we are now in the medieval times. Like we are losing the battle. Like we are digressing each time. Okay, I don't think YouTubers they didn't capture that, but that's what I got out of it. It's we were this big strong military, and then we are now being belittled to this back to sticks and stones. I think that's what they were trying to capture with that, and I thought it was very effective. It put me in a feeling of very unease. Like when you see in the movie, you're supposed to suspend disbelief. I'm already feeling that we lost this battle. We lost it. So that's where they put us. We are not going to win this. We are ultimately headed towards extinction. I think that's where we're headed in this series. I like the primitive style of filmmaking, minus the iPhone setups that everybody's talking about. I think like the way that it was cut and edited, like I said with the House of a Thousand type editing with the insert shots put in there. I think they went to the primitive style of horror, like Rob Zombie, because they wanted to put us in that feeling of the humans now are now primitive. Okay, everything is we're going back to where we started basically. I thought that their choices in using those shots and were great, and also they use these primitive styles to show that these rage zombies, and like I said, they're not even zombies because they're living, and they show that they're actually communitizing. You know, they should have a childbirth, so they're not dead like zombies. They're actual living creatures. So I think they reverted back to cavemen, and then the alphas are, in my opinion, are more like the Neanderthal. So everything has gone back to the start. You know, prehistoric times. I think that's where they're at. So it's basically prehistoric times versus medieval times, and who's going to win this time? You see what I'm saying? I think that's what the battle is, and I think moving forward we're going to expound upon that. I thought one of the best casting choices I've seen in a while, and really any movie, is was Ralph Fiennes. To the fact that this character was just talked about, right? We only heard of stories about him, how crazy and how dangerous this guy is. We've seen him lining up the bodies. We understand that he's a dangerous man, or if we heard that he's crazy, he's lost his mind. But he also happens to be the doctor, so we don't really know what state of mind that this man's in, and we only meet him 3/4 through the movie already. Which, what other character did that? Right? What other character was held to suspense? Voldemort in the Harry Potter series, right? We heard about him for 3 movies, and then we finally seen him in the Goblet of Fire. We finally seen him. Who better to cast than Voldemort for this part? I think it was great. It was a perfect choice, and I'm actually excited to see what he brings to the series, because Voldemort is one of the greatest characters in cinema history. So I think he's only going to bring something great. Another thing that I don't see a lot of YouTubers talk about is pace. One of the movies that stand out in recent times is, pacing wise, is A Quiet Place, um, where it goes from one event to the next. Like it just snow rolls into it, so you don't really have much time to stop and think. But it has to be done tactically, and it has to be each separate scene that's spiraling downwards in this fast pace. There has to be something where the characters are given a challenge to try to get out of it. I thought that the pace was great in this one, right? And a very important thing when you're making a movie, if you're making a movie, you're watching a movie, take note of the pace. All right, a lot of filmmakers nowadays, they have this pretentious style of filmmaking where they feel like they're entitled to letting you sit there and waiting through 10 minutes of exposition or 20 minutes of the movie beforehand before they actually get into it. No, we got things to do and places to go, so the pace has to be front and foremost, one of the most important things. One of the downfalls of this film, like I said, ending is everything, right? The ending wasn't necessarily terrible yet, because we're supposed to see where this goes, because it's already set up for sequels. Apparently it's already shot already. But at the very end, here comes a big spoiler, these characters come in to save the main character kid. And apparently it's the kid in the beginning with the cross. He's handed the cross from his father, the priest. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it turns into a Guy Ritchie film. Like, I literally thought that we were watching like Snatch or The Gentleman. Like, how did this movie just turn into that? Like, I'm expecting pikey Brad Pitt to pop out. Like, what is going on here? He's going to be talking about he's mine, where me mine, where me mine. Like, how did the movie just turn into that? But somehow, at the last 2 minutes of the film, the movie turns into a Guy Ritchie film. Right? I'm For that scene, for the movie so far, from what we know so far, that was a terrible choice. But moving forward in the sequels, maybe it'll pick it back up. And everything's done for a reason, right? So we can't completely bash it yet. It might be, when we see the sequel, it might be a genius decision. But as of right now, that is the worst decision so far. Not a deal breaker, though. Not a deal breaker. Remember that. And when the movie was over, I had that feeling of, oh, I want to see more. I want to see where this goes. So that's a good thing, right? One of the things that I wanted to point out, I've not seen any YouTubers talk about this. The Alpha Zombie, or the Alpha Rage virus person. it was Jason Momoa. They basically should have just cast him for that part, right? And also another thing that I don't see any YouTubers talk about is why why did the director feel it necessary for the Alpha Zombie to be swinging? Right, he's swinging. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, when you watch it, you'll know when you see it. But for some reason, they decided that was very important for the Alpha Zombie to show that he's the Alpha in that sense. All right, we'll end it there. Yeah, so that's it. 28 years later, I think it was a great movie. I think you should see it in theaters while it's still out there. There's a lot to learn from it. You can learn from the mistakes too. They're easy to point out, but it's a really good movie, fun movie, scary movie, and I'm excited to see where this new trilogy goes. Underdog producer, don't forget to subscribe. Remember, the Mass Salem chapter is my horror film. I'm working on it. Got some big names coming out, and you're gonna love it because I'm here to bring the fear. All right, I'm not trying to make you laugh in a horror movie. I'm trying to scare you. Okay, that's what we're supposed to do in these horror movies. We're not here to make you laugh. All right, you want to laugh? Go see a comedy movie. All right, Underdog producer. Cheers.